I, I call this meeting to order. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this evening meeting of the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners, April 4th, 2023. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. With that, I'd be open to a motion to approve our regular meeting proposed agenda. I have not heard of any changes to the agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hulls. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Felber. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving on to agenda item number 2, that of our public hearing tonight. This was posted a few weeks back. We will be having a public hearing and consideration of amendments to the subsurface sewage treatment system low-interest loan program ordinance. So I would like, I think I first need to, if you would like to share a few things with us first.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Ms.
Good.
Jillian Carlson.
Good evening, Commissioner, members of the board. It's interesting to say good evening instead of good morning. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Jillian Carlson. I'm an environmental specialist in the Planning and Zoning Department. If you want to follow along to the draft changes, they're on page 9 in your packet. Department staff are recommending amending the subsurface sewage treatment system low-interest loan program ordinance to allow for the costs of surveys when they're required by local units of government for the purpose of showing setback distances. The reason that we're recommending this is recently a property owner was required by a township that oversees their own zoning to obtain a survey in order to determine setback distances for placement of their septic system on their property. And under the current eligible expenses in the ordinance, we were unable to include the cost in her loan. So that's why we're proposing this change.
Okay, so that is D, letter D, item 8 in your packet. So any questions or comments about that change?
No.
This change has been posted and we notified the public of the public hearing. And so with no comments or questions, we will open the public hearing. So are there any residents here that would like to speak on this issue of amending the ordinance subsurface sewage treatment system low interest program? No one's here to speak on low interest loan program for subsurface sewage treatment systems? Okay, the public hearing, we were in the appropriate amount of time, correct, Keisha? Because we know it said anytime after 7 o'clock.
7:02.
7 or shortly thereafter, so we're in that time frame. Want to make sure we don't miss anyone that might be rushing in to speak to this. So just pause a second before we close the public hearing. Okay, if seeing that no one's here to speak, we will close the public hearing. And this is an action item, so after now conducting that public hearing, we will consider this agenda item, which the motion and the desired action is to adopt the amendment to the subsurface sewage treatment system low-interest loan program ordinance as presented and recommended.
Madam Chair, I motion to approve that amendment.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Felber. Opening up to the board, any other questions or comments?
And just for clarification, Madam Chair, that is only if the jurisdiction that is in charge of their planning and zoning requires that survey to be done. Will
That's
that
correct.
be included?
Yep, only if the local unit of government requires it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Jillian. Moving on to agenda item number 3, that of our open forum. Do we have anyone signed up for open forum this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 2 people signed up. Our first person who signed up is Brett Collier of Big Lake, speaking on property, taxes, and budget.
Okay, great. Good evening, Brett.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us.
Brett Collier, Big Lake. The property tax increase that you are seeing has little, if anything, to do with the increased value of your home. If you have a county with 1,000 identical $250,000 properties, each property has an equal share of $1 million budget, you're paying $1,000 a year. If a couple of those $250,000 properties is resold for $300,000, then the assessor will mark up all of the other $1,000 properties to $300,000 to reflect your market value, a market increase of 20%. Should you then expect to pay more property tax by 20%? No. A $1 million budget is equally shared by the 1,000 identical properties is still going to be $1,000 apiece. The only reason your property tax would increase is because the county, school district, city, or township is spending more money. Here in Sherburne County in 2022, everyone's market value went up approximately 10%. So, provided the budget stays the same, everyone's property tax should stay the same. But that's not what happened. It rose by something like 7%. For years, almost every story you read, in almost every truth and taxation meeting you go to, you hear the line that your property tax increase is largely due to the increased value of your property. That is not true. So, and keep this in mind during the presentation you're about to receive in Agenda Item 8.1. We need to stop spending more money. We need to stop creating new programs and funding all these charitable organizations. It's not charity if you're requiring me to contribute. And these grants that the county is applying for. While you may like to look at these grants as free money from the fed or the state, once the program is established by grant money, this program then maintained by the Sherburne County property tax monies. For example, in January 3rd, Agenda Item 10.2, where it was approved to apply for a $3.6 million grant to create a food waste recycling program. Once that money runs out, how is this new program going to be funded? Property tax dollars. So 1, the county needs to be upfront and more truthful about why taxes are increasing, and 2, the county needs to look beyond the attractiveness of supposed free grant money and recognize future financial impacts. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Our next speaker?
Next, we have Kari Watkins of St. Cloud, speaking on truth.
Good evening, Kari.
Good evening. It is weird to say that, but it's good. I'm speaking on what we were told versus what is true. We were told there was Trump-Russian collusion in the 2016 election. Mueller found nothing, and Hillary Clinton's campaign was fined for using campaign funds in acquiring the Steele dossier. We were told COVID-19 came from a Wuhan wet market rather than a Wuhan lab leak. Oops, in March of this year, we were told that COVID-19 likely did result from the lab leak. We were told that masks would stop the spread of COVID-19, but a recent study shows that this is not the case. In fact, industrial hygienist Stephen Petty testified as an expert witness in mask mandate court cases involving mask mandates, and every time he testified, the mandate was dropped. One of his quotes was aerosols, the kingpin word that renders masks and the 6-foot rule meaningless. You can find his information on YouTube. We were told the COVID vaccine would prevent you from getting or spreading COVID. Well, just ask my 5 relatives who were vaccinated and traveled to Alaska and all came back with COVID, along with many, many vaccinated people who are getting COVID. The January 6th shaman, Jake Angeli, was jailed for being a violent insurrectionist until video was shown that he was peacefully being led around the Capitol chambers by Capitol Police, and then he was released from jail. Finally, our electronic election systems we are told that they are safe and secure. We keep hearing of more and more vulnerabilities with the software, yet more and more comes out about electronic voting systems from Dominion, Knowing, Connect, and ERIC, which 8 states have abandoned, making it less effective, if it was ever effective at all. I believe in the coming months we will find more about these problematic systems. We need to secure our elections and hand count our paper ballots, control our own voter rolls, and get rid of all electronic poll pads and voting systems. And please, as you are setting up an election committee, we ask that there be an open meeting so the public can be a part of the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Kari. Any others?
There is nobody else signed up, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Keisha. Moving on now to agenda item number 4, that of our consent agenda. Items number 4.1 through 22 for our approval tonight. I have not been asked to remove any of those, so I would be open to the wishes of the board.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda as presented.
Motion made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Gray. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving on to announcements, agenda number 5. Commissioner, or Administrator Messelt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just a few quick announcements for the board tonight and the community. With respect to the calendar, just to note that tomorrow evening, we do have scheduled the Sherburne County Association of Township meeting, 7 p.m. at the Sherburne County History Center, for those who can and are able to attend. In addition, Michelle Moen asked me to share with the board just a reminder, if you're out in the community, to remind folks that the local boards are meeting soon to go over assessment values, and that the specific agenda or schedule, if you need it, we can send out in addition, so you can remind folks to attend those local board meetings if they are so inclined. Also, just a couple of other quick announcements. The good news for tonight, if we tracked it, is, as you know, Sherburne County is an active member of the Towards Zero Death Initiative. We were very pleased with the statewide statistics and the local statistics that were distributed. And I'll just share it with you. Through March 19th in the state of Minnesota, there were 40 traffic-related deaths on Minnesota roadways. While that is tragic, that is a 30% decrease from the same time last year and a 23% decrease over the previous 5 years. So that initiative seems to be, at least this year, making some differences. In addition, Andrew was excited to share with the county board 0 deaths in Sherburne County yet this year, traffic-related. So I'll pass the statistics on, and you can review those as you find worth it. Second of all, just a note for the county board, a lot of things going on with Xcel Energy that we've been tracking, of course. 2 things came in correspondence. One is an open house opportunity to learn more about the Alexandria Big Oaks transmission line. And so I'll pass this invitation around, and if you want to note the dates and times, I think we also sent it to you. So if you're out in community meetings, you can share that. And then, in addition to that, a specific invitation, should the county wish to actually host a meeting. We did get a notice of availability for a meeting on the same transmission line. So if the county is so inclined, or perhaps the Energy Committee would like to consider, Energy Transitions Committee, consider hosting a specific meeting to talk about that particular project. And as you know, we continue to work on several Xcel Energy issues as well. And then finally, just a note for the board, and with the board's permission, I would like to ask the county attorney to share an introduction with you, and then maybe a little early, but a thank you to you for one of her staff members.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, if I may introduce Jennifer Clements. Jennifer is one of my felony prosecutors. She comes to us via Blue Earth County, so she's a wonderful addition to our staff. She was just accepted down in Alabama There's a national institute that's involved with handling digital evidence, and she's just been accepted. You just approved her going. There's no cost. The institute itself actually bears the cost. But it's really quite an honor, and she's the third member of my staff to be accepted. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for your support.
Great. Thank you, welcome, and best of everything for you in Alabama. Is that it? Okay. Who's this? Okay, thank you for those announcements. Moving on to agenda items number 6.1 and 2, our proclamations. We'll start with 6.1, to consider and approve by proclamation the week of April 3rd through 9th, 2023 as National Public Health Week. So I think what I would want to do before I read, or I'll read the proclamation first. I will read the public health proclamation. It sounds like this. Whereas April 3rd through 9th, 2023 is declared as National Public Health Week to recognize the contributions of public health and educate the public, policymakers, and public health professionals about issues important to improving the public's health. Whereas the theme for National Public Health Week in 2023 is centering and celebrating cultures in health, with the goal of recognizing the contributions of public health in improving the health of the people in the United States and achieving health equity. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated the need for a robust public health infrastructure and workforce to collaborate with state and local governments, schools, businesses, and employers to support public health measures to decrease community spread. Whereas many of the leading causes of death for individuals in the United States result from chronic conditions, which are among the most common, costly, and preventable of all health challenges. Whereas the Sherburne County Health and Human Services Department promotes healthy communities and healthy behaviors, prevents the spread of infectious disease, protects against the environmental health hazards, prepares for and responds to disasters, and assists communities in recovery, assures the quality and accessibility of health services, and assures an adequate public health infrastructure. Now, therefore, in recognition of National Public Health Week and the commitment and dedication to individuals, families, and communities in Sherburne County through service delivery, research, and prevention education, we, the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of April 3rd through the 9th, 2023 as Public Health Week. And with that, I'd be open to a motion to approve that proclamation.
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve that proclamation.
Motion's made by Commissioner Felber. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Any comments or questions? As we know, Commissioners, one of the big responsibilities of a county board and the services of the county, as mandated by the state, as we are the public health entity for our county. So I think it just seems fit that we support this declaration and thank our public health staff members who work in this area. So with that, hearing no other comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. And the second proclamation or thing that we are celebrating this week, item number 6.2, I'm going to ask Administrator Messelt to read this proclamation. That is a Public Safety Telecommunications Week, which is next week.
Whereas 1 week every April is designated as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. This year, that week is April 9th through the 15th, 2023. And whereas the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office supports the proposition that the men and women who perform the difficult task of operating the county's 911 dispatch center deserve this recognition, whereas the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office recognizes that our 911 dispatchers are professionals equal in status and importance to other public safety professionals in the effective administration of justice. Therefore, be it resolved that we, the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners, do hereby acknowledge the week of April 9th through the 15th, 2023 as Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Sherburne County in honor of the dedicated professionals who work diligently in the county's 911 dispatch center.
Thanks, Bruce. So then I would be open to a motion to approve the designation of the week of April 9th to the 15th as Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Sherburne County.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Halls. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any other comments or questions?
I would like to comment that 911 operators have traditionally, both on statute and with their retirement programs and stuff, been treated as more of a clerical type of a job. And I think that, things like this, we're acknowledging more and more the actual level of first responder type work that our 911 telecommunicators are doing. And hopefully the state will follow along with that in treating them in their job classifications and their pension stuff much more like other first responders in the area. Because you can't, having done the job on the street, you can't do the job on the street without good 911 communicating. So.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to also thank all of our 911 dispatch in our county. They are truly, like what Commissioner Felber said, they are truly the start of the whole process, and they do it for the whole county, not only our sheriff's department, but our city law enforcement as well. So I do want to thank them for all of their dedicated service.
Okay. Others? And this also public safety, that's another one of our major responsibilities, public health, public safety, public works. So covered two of them tonight with these, so. Seeing no more comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thank you. Moving on now to agenda item 6.3, consider approval of a final standard plat for Pines Edge. Ms. Lynn
Evening,
Witashik.
Commissioners. These are the items from the March Planning Commission meeting. First item is JDA Builders Incorporated. They're requesting final residential standard plat approval of Pines Edge. This is a plat that consists of 4 lots. This is in Big Lake Township on about 11 acres in the General Rural District. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 3 conditions listed in your packet.
Okay, so I'd first be open to the wishes of the board with a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve this request with the conditions as stated.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is
I'll
there-
second that.
Commissioner Felber seconds it. Any questions or comments? This is in Big Lake Township. Okay. Seeing no questions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving on to agenda item number 6.4.
This is Christina Nelson and Ruth Carpenter, who's the owner. They're requesting an interim use permit for a home business in an accessory building to operate a boutique shop. This is located at 10913 42nd Street Northeast in Clear Lake. This is in Palmer Township on .78 of an acre in the Ag District and within the Shoreland Overlay District of Briggs Lake. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 10 conditions in your packet and the findings of fact.
Okay, so I'd be open for a motion.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Gray. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Any questions or comments on this one? This one is in Palmer Township.
Yeah, and this is just a occasional shop that is going to run. I think at the most, when I read, was three days a month, possibly around the holiday season. They'll do an extra possible 3.
Correct.
Yeah, so, and I don't recall anybody that spoke at the public hearing. And so it sounded like, and then they came to a compromise or a result on parking on the roadway and stuff, so as not to create that public safety.
Correct. It's on a township road. The township had some concerns. They worked with the property owner, and they both understand what some of the issues are, and they're going to do their best to make sure that they address those issues.
Okay, thank you.
And then just one question. In addition to the traffic, the other piece I was just had a question on was any noise concerns with it being in a neighborhood.
It's on the lake. The noise concern didn't come up as much, it's more of the traffic issue. Everything's done indoors inside the building, so I don't believe there'd be much noise associated with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. On to agenda item 6.5.
This is Paulette Britzius, Revocable Trust. They're requesting preliminary and final residential simple plat approval of Linus Second Edition. This is 3 lots in Orac Township on 30 acres in the General Rural District and in the Shoreland Overlay District of Ann Lake. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 5 conditions listed in your packet.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. And so I'd be open to a motion.
So move.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Gray,
I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any comments or questions on this one? This is in
Madam-
Orac Township.
Madam Chair, I did have one question. In reading through the information, I noticed that there's going to be an existing driveway that is, sounds like it's more of a private driveway than a maintained road. And my only concern going forward is how is that going to be represented upon resale of property? Just so people understand, because it can't be expanded on that driveway. It's got to stay as it is. And my concern is always, everybody knows right now, but going down the road in the future, other owners might not be aware of that, and they'll start to expand the drive. I'm just curious as to how we'll.
Well, it's not township right-of-way. It is a private property.
Yep.
And so if they wanted to plat it, if it's the road, there's a couple different driveways on this property, but one of them couldn't be expanded, I don't believe, because it's too close to the lake.
Right.
And so if it's that one, that would be an issue with regard to expanding that.
So is that anything that is in any legal documentation that would come up upon review of a purchase?
The county doesn't review purchases. That's up to whoever's purchasing the property to ensure that they understand what they're buying. There may be an easement there because that may be for another piece to access on the back side of it, if it's the one that I'm thinking of. And that easement would be recorded if there's an easement there.
Okay.
It's one of the conditions. It's in
Right.
there. It's one of the condition. Needs to be recorded.
Yeah. I'm just basically referring to my concern is always down the road, those things fall by the wayside a lot of times, and then all of a sudden something is happening, and then someone is upset because they bought a piece of property and did not understand that there was those limitations that were on it. So that's just what I'm pointing
So it
out.
sounds like that needs to be recorded. So that would be up to a new owner to read that paperwork. To understand that,
Okay.
which I'm guilty of not reading that paperwork till I'm into it, so.
You
Not
are
a good
one of
real
the
estate
wise
agent.
ones. Yeah, all right, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving
you.
on, thanks, Lynn. Agenda item 6.6, to consider the approval of a letter of support for the Pope Douglas CAP grant solicitation.
Easy for you to say.
Mr. Dave Lucas.
Evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Steve Ricotta with Pope Douglas is online as well. Hopefully he can hear all of us. So before you is consideration approval of a letter of support for a capital assistance grant application that's being submitted by Pope Douglas Joint Solid Waste Management Board. Pope Douglas Solid Waste Management owns and operates a waste-to-energy facility, and they are seeking support for their Phase 2 Capital Assistance Program grant funding request, and if received, would provide additional improvements towards their processing of mixed municipal solid waste at their facility. Currently, about 50,000 tons of MSW generated in the Tri-County Solid Waste Service Area is being delivered to Pope Douglas for processing. Tri-County is a joint powers consisting of Stearns, Benton, and west portion of Sherburne counties. The commission is currently in a 20-year agreement with Pope Douglas with a term ending in 2031. Our county's allocated portion of Tri-County's delivery is approximately 5,000 tons annually. Pope Douglas was discussed at the March 16th, 2023 Tri-County Solid Waste Management Commission meeting, where there it was decided by commission members that letters of support should be considered by member counties rather than by Tri-County alone. So unless there are any questions from me, I'd like to turn it over to Steve. He has a couple of PowerPoints that he would like to present on what their proposed improvements would provide for.
Any questions so far for Dave?
No.
Okay. Sure.
Steve?
Mr. Steve Verkota is with Pope Douglas.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Chair and Board. My name is Steve Verkota, Director for Pope Douglas. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let's see. Did that come up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, this is a kind of a refresh. In 2019, when our original CAP grant went forward with support of the MPCA, Pope Douglas worked with Tri-County. Basically, we had a letter of support with entities we already had a contract with. Our contract was actually with Tri-County for tons coming to our facility. Basically, we're still, since capital dollars for bonding weren't appropriated in 2022, we're still basically in, and only partial funds were initially supplied in 2020. We're still in the bonding program. And basically, we present that we have support from 7 counties. Pope, Douglas, Grant, and Stevens, and then the tri-county area counties, Sherburne being one of. So just basically to make it very clear, when we're dealing with people that support our project, we wanted to refresh that Sherburne County is still in support of our project. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of what it is. And you know that you know that when we're telling people that other counties are supporting our project, that you're in that mix. So basically, our the slide in front of you is our original site over on the left-hand side. It's our existing waste energy facility in the darker color. Basically, our current headquarters is about where that tipping floor is shown. That area includes a recycle center, a household hazardous waste collection center. If you've ever been to the Stearns facility, that's what we're looking to build, which is shown over on the right-hand side. So as part of phase 1, Pope Douglas has purchased all the land over on the right-hand side. We've done full engineering for the entire facility and done groundwork, put in pipes, and bonded our portion of phase 2. So we're basically we're the #1 approved MPCA project on their list to get funding, to get some bond dollars to finish some larger infrastructure projects for solid waste. Again, we process garbage, MSW, from 7 counties. And so this is just kind of an overview of what we're looking to do. I'm going to try to get to the next slide. This is just a rendering. This isn't constructed yet. We are going out currently for bids and looking to start the work this construction season. So basically, it's a drive-through facility. On the right of the screen here is a roll-up door. Our citizens, residents would come in, drop off paint, light bulbs, all in a controlled environment. All of the heat for this building is provided from waste heat from the waste energy facility. In addition, it's a recycle center, a reuse center, and it serves as some of our administration functions. And let's see, so I've got the next slide. This is showing kind of the backside, the working end. for moving materials. We are collecting e-waste, other things, and those go here. So this is about half of the funding. So this is more directed to the Pope and Douglas end of the project. The other part of the project is a advanced recovery facility that treats all of the garbage, the MSW that comes in. So as part of this, as being built under phase 2, is advanced, it's called a material recovery facility. And in this facility, not only will we recover aluminum and steel, which we currently do, but we will also recover number 1 and number 2 plastics, which will increase total recycle tons and also add revenue to the overall project. In addition, we increase our recovery of aluminum and steel, and that is one of the questions. How does this affect Sherburne County? Some of the tipping fee that Pope Douglas charges, there is a cost for net cost of operations, and any project that helps us lower those operation costs and making a better fuel and getting more revenue will help us control those operation costs. And I guess just to be clear, we're not looking for any dollar support. We're supported by your existing contract through 2031. The MPCA knows that exists. It's part of our operational plan that your tons are included in our number, in our operational plan. And it's so basically, it's just that in terms of general solid waste management, that this facility makes sense. We've got one more slide. So this is our current facility expansion. It's not Antarctica. These are all the underground work has been done. And so these are pipes sticking out of the ground. So the nice thing is we got all the hard work done in the prep. So as soon as the snow melts, hopefully we can finish our project, and hopefully there will be a bonding bill passed in the legislative session. So that's our goal. As you know, just different projects can, it's good to get support from both Democrats and Republicans, and to show that we have regional support in those areas. And that's the main reason that we're kind of moving forward and certainly looking for your support. And this is just a QR code. If you are interested, if you take a picture of this, this will launch you to a more detailed information on what happens at our site. So just if you are interested, it's just a QR code. And before you should have it's a one-page brief sheet that we use down at the legislature to show what our project is about, and then the letter of support. And if there are any questions on what we're doing or what our expectations are, or anything else.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Anything more, Dave?
Nothing more from me.
Okay, so
Y'all have questions?
the desired action tonight is to approve a letter in support for a capital assistant grant application submitted by the Pope Douglas Joint Solid Waste Management Board, and authorize the county board chair's signature of the same. So I'd be open to a motion for that, and then we can have more discussion.
So move.
Motion's made by Commissioner Gray,
I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Felber. We do have, a joint powers board with Stearns, Benton, and Sherburne County. I served on that for a number of years. Our two representatives on that now are Commissioner Danielowski, Commissioner Felber. So I don't know if you two want to speak to this at all, or if others have questions.
Greg, do you want to?
Just going to ask, Steve, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
How much is this going to increase the debt load for Pope Douglas? Because that was a concern that I did hear.
Sure. So Pope Douglas, this is, we've already bonded. This is an additional $7 million of Pope Douglas money to match about $12 million of state funds to finish this project. And so our debt load it's covered. To get this grant through the MPCA, we had to show existing contracts and cash flow for the next minimum of 10 years. And we basically show with our, current tipping fee, our revenue and our debt service that we can handle that debt. And again, that the debt is handled by the joint powers of Pope and Douglas. We're not asking Sherburne to carry any of the debt or obligation.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I think I did want to make one comment in regards to our particular situation here in Sherburne. We are filling our landfill at a higher rate than we ever anticipated, with no signs of that slowing down. So we are always looking for ways to minimize that impact on the landfill. Hennepin County is more than happy to ship their product to our county for filling our landfill. So I think that we do our best to try to figure out ways that we can minimize that impact, because how fast are we going right now at the rate that we're currently filling? What's the percentage increase of what our projections were?
Well, since the processing stopped at Great River Energy, we more than doubled the amount of solid waste that we are landfilling. So we're pushing recycling to
Minimize?
higher rate than what the average Minnesota outstate county and some even metropolitan counties are achieving, which is a testimony to our ability to push recycling, but recycling can only get you so far. It's the processing of waste and, that's what, this is a small part. So to maintain this aspect right here, in my opinion, it's good. It just reduces the amount of waste being landfilled.
Yeah, and I think we want to encourage that and be supportive of that for Pope Douglas to achieve that expansion and their ability to process waste as versus going into a landfill.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Waste is a challenging issue.
It is.
Big issue when you are a county that hosts a large landfill. It's
It is.
really difficult, and they just the surrounding counties just want to dump their waste in our landfill, so.
And I think if people take a drive up 169 and realize the length of that landfill and how large that landfill is, and that is all that will ever be, is a landfill. Even when it gets full and they cap it, nothing else will happen there. It'll just be a landfill that has to be monitored for the rest of its existence.
Okay. Hearing no more comments or questions, there's a motion to approve a letter of support. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Steve.
Thank you for your support.
Moving on to agenda item number 6.7, Mr. Dan Weber brings us the American Rescue Plan Act update and recommended approvals.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This week we have one request for ARPA funds. It is for a lighting upgrade project in the jail. It's at a not-to-exceed amount of $20,000. This is a one-time cost. The bids did come in a little lower than that, but we want to keep the contingency just in case. And if that money's not spent, it'll obviously be returned to the ARPA fund.
Okay, so what is the wish of the board?
So move.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Gray to approve the expense for the jail lighting upgrade project. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Moving on now to agenda item number 7, that of Commissioner Correspondence Committee reports, upcoming meetings, future agenda items. Basically, what have you been up to in the last couple weeks? Who would like to start?
I'll go first.
Okay, Commissioner Felber.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's great to see so many people in the audience. For people that aren't familiar with coming to these meetings, it seems like we roll through an awful lot of business in a very short period of time. But I assure you that in between meetings and like right up until 4 o'clock today, I was still getting information and going through and making sure that we approve this. We go through a lot of work outside of the meeting so that we can get through this stuff efficiently and we're not sitting here all night. Now, in the last couple of weeks, aside from the things I already mentioned, met with staff of the city of Becker. They have ongoing concerns about more solar farms being permitted in areas because they have the giant solar farm that they can't do anything about. They're concerned about more solar farms coming in and basically surrounding their city and giving them no place to develop out into for housing and things like that we need. So that's something we got to watch. Went to the Central Mississippi Planning Commission. I'll let Rhiannon cover that more. She's the primary there, but it's rolling along quite nicely. We will get a bridge. It's not going to be soon, but it's coming. Went to Livonia Township meeting. They were doing their organizational meeting. They received their annual sheriff's and a fire report. They got all the stuff done. They look like they got a good new board going on out there. Went to the Midwest Forensic Laboratory Advisory Board, which I sit on. We're really fortunate to have this resource. This resource allows us to make sure that we are working 100% towards public safety for the citizens of Sherburne County. We don't have to worry about using other labs that may be excessively busy or that might have some sort of political shutdown or reduction of fees. We've got that going for us, that we have this really great lab that we share with 2 other counties that we get a lot of our work done, we get our work done there. They're close to full staff, but they're short of DNA scientists. So if you know somebody's a DNA scientist looking for a job, they do pay pretty well over there. They're a little backlog, but catching up. They got a couple of summer interns coming in. They recently got their accreditation review came through, and that was good. One thing that they did mention there is that if issues related to CBD enforcement have been very difficult in the state of Minnesota, combination of lack of law and some court decisions, but youth access and overdose has still been a big problem. In one of our neighboring counties, they had 5 students overdose on, not CBD, I'm sorry, on THC Delta 9 products. They had 5 students overdose in one day at one school. So watch for that. Tell your friends to watch for that. I mean, there's very low amount in the individual gummies, but the kids can overload really, really easily by taking a handful. I went to the DNR Sand Dunes meeting. There were a lot of people there who were to comment on trail use issues. There were a few people there who were concerned about dispersed camping rules. One of the things that's been a problem in the Sand Dunes State Forest, and that's really out of our jurisdiction for the most part, is that there's people abusing the dispersed camping rule. You can disperse camp. You can just camp anywhere you want to in the park for up to 2 weeks in the summertime. They did have people who were kind of using it as a homeless village out there and leaving a lot of waste and a lot of drugs and those kinds of issues. Some people at the meeting advocated for closing that down. That would be a resource and a use that a lot of other people enjoy that we'd hate to see closed down. So what we're hoping for is that, for certain, like our sheriff's office will be at full staff this summer, and perhaps somebody can figure out a grant or some sort of additional funding to maybe even get more law enforcement out there. But even as citizens, if you can keep your eyes open for people who are committing violations while you're out there using our wonderful forest and let law enforcement know, that would be great. All of us went to the AMC Leadership Conference in Nisswa last week, and that was the training was focused on communication skills. It was pretty valuable. It's good stuff. I went to coffee with Mayor John Dietz at the Elk River American Legion last Saturday. Most of the concerns are about road issues and road construction. I did get a question about lighting, and I will get back to that citizen. I've just today got a list of all the lights that are going, and we're doing a lot of intersection lighting in Sherburne County. We have 19 more that we're going to light up this year and into next year. So what that's going to do for those rural intersections, make it a lot safer at night and reduce accidents in those areas. So we're pretty happy with that program. And then we just met with the Soil and Water Conservation District staff about the local water plan advisory committee, which Gary and I sit on. I'm the primary, and Gary's the alternate. We got some really good information. We learned about the county geological atlas. I'm pretty excited about that because since I've got on the board, so many of the committees that I'm going to and so many things I'm hearing about, I mean, housing, solid waste, which I also said on one of those boards, and this water board, everything we're talking about aquifers. How are we affecting our aquifers by the way our population is moving, and how are we going to preserve that and keep those water resources for the future? And these folks were nice enough to set us up with some really good information on how the aquifers do and some really good geologic stuff. So I've got a lot more reading to do the next couple of weeks, but I'm pretty excited about that. That's all I really got for now.
Thanks, Commissioner Felber. Next, who can top that?
I'll let Andrew go.
You'll let me go.
Yeah, feel free.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate the help. So since the last meeting, we met with Elk River and the Redefine 169 project and attended the open house there. A couple of key aspects on that is the temporary alternate routes that are being put in place because of the intersection construction. So those of you that are in Elk River itself, take a look at those plans because there's some alternative accesses that are going to be put in place so that we can get to one side of the town versus the other, which are once again temporary, but they're going to be necessary for the summer. So it's going to be a bit of a mess this summer since they're doing two intersections at once. But once they get through those, there's just one left, and then we'll be done. After that, it seems like my entire 2 weeks was spent around water. So the watershed district, both from the Mississippi watershed district as well as I'm an alternate on the Rum River as well, and then there was also the We Are Water project, which was put on by the watershed districts as well. Those projects are well underway. The Rum River project, their comprehensive plan, for lack of a better term, one watershed plan, is in the implementation phase, whereas the Mississippi watershed is in the production phase of setting up their plan, which is it's a 2-year project. Both of these projects are important because you have to clean up the headwaters in order to get the necessary effect downstream, and so those are extensive projects to try to get some of the impaired waters that we have in Sherburne County off of the impaired list. Then the other big one was we did have the first meeting of our election integrity ad hoc committee this morning, sort of an organizational meeting for that piece, and we'll continue on with that as well. So much shorter than Greg's.
Thank you.
Just a touch. All right. I had a March 22nd, there was a speaker here at the Government Center on helping facilitate opportunities and interaction with the public, and also had a city council meeting that night, the 23rd, as Greg referred to in regards to the CMRP meeting, the Central Mississippi River Partnership meeting. That is something that we are working on and we're making headway. We approved moving forward with a selection of a company that is going to help work us through the next phase of the Pell process, which is what you have to do for the environmental studies. There's a lot of work that the federal and state requires you to do whenever you are talking about being around a water body, such as the river, and trying to accomplish a connection or a new connection to cross that river. So we are working through that. We will also be looking at what CMRP will want to become, because now it's going to start to go to the 2 counties to continue that process and that work. And then CMRP is looking to become possibly a 501c 6, I think it is. Yes, thank you, Dan. And so we're looking through all of the, what does that mean? What can we do by doing that? Or do we stay as we are? And so we will be working through that too, coming up in the near future. And also then I also did, as Andrew referred to, we did have our first election subcommittee meeting to go over everything. And then we have good participation at the table from our county attorney, our county auditor's office. We also have the sheriff, myself and Andrew, our administrator, and IT. So we're off to a good start. And then also attended the Mississippi River One Watershed, One Plan that Andrew attended, and he spoke very well to what it is. Also attended the AMC Legislative Conference event that Greg spoke about. Had an options board meeting also on the 27th, and also had a legislative update as well. And I think that, oh, and then also want to make sure that anybody who's interested in what Bruce was talking about with the Big Oaks transmission line update, there will be a meeting Wednesday, April 12th at the Becker Community Center from 4 o'clock to 7. It's an open house style, so anybody that wants to understand more about what that project is going to entail. And they're also going to be having a virtual open house. The link will be posted at alexandria2bigoaks.com, and they'll have 2 opportunities on Thursday, April 13th, one at 1 o'clock and one at 6 o'clock. And then I also wanted to let everybody know, if you have the opportunity to get up to the Sherburne County History Center, there is a water exhibit that is going on. We Are Water. I highly recommend it. It is very interactive and really a lot of great information. So if you can get up there to check that out, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gray.
Just touching on what Rayanne just said about the We Are Water open house at the Sherburne County History Center. I attended the opening of that on the 22nd, and it is a great interactive type of thing for the water thing. I attended the First Steps Joint Powers Board with Lisa. I'm the alternate on that committee, and I stay up to speed with that. So that's really good. I attended the XL Energy open house on the water leak that they've had at the plant. Spoke with most of the executives who were at that meeting and had a very good discussion with them, filling me in on what they have done, what they're transpiring to do. Also attended the options board meeting. I'm the alternate, where Rayanne's the positive. And options is a very important part for the disability people in the community, which is huge. We need to keep those programs going, which is vital, I believe. I met with Lynn and Zach from zoning and with the concerns with the constituents. This past week, I also attended the AMCA Leadership Institute, which was in regards to communication, which I felt, and I think the rest of the board that was attendance, was some very unique ways of getting through communication and how to look at ourselves in a different light. Also attended with Greg the local water planning advisory with the soil and water conservation. And again, I think all of us are on some form of committee that has to do with water in multiple ways. So it's a vital resource for Sherburne County.
Okay, thanks. Busy couple weeks here. I am part of the Great River Regional Library Board that is part of 6 counties. So we met and we're working on our budgeting for next year, our primary responsibility, and we're working on keeping the county's part of that at 0%. So cross your fingers, we're very close. I went to the speaker that Rayanne chatted about, and actually it was titled, How to Deal with Difficult People. So she didn't quite say that, but it was Bruce Christopher. It was someone we brought in for our staff. Our staff deals with the public all the time. Not all the public is as pleasant as all of you sitting here at times. So it was great. He was creative, he was good, he gave you different ideas and different things to use with all the different people you deal with, come across in your life. The First Steps Joint Powers Board, that is 4 counties that meet together as a joint powers that work with public health, mainly making home visits to our littlest ones, 0 to 5, to help them get a good foundation in their household with their parents, with their grandparents, whoever they're living with. We had to act on a services contract, so we had a special meeting. So thank you for our county attorney and all the other attorneys for working on that. They put a lot of hours into those contracts, so appreciate that. Rum River One Watershed One Plan. The state has determined that we're now being funded as watershed-based projects, so that's why you're hearing all about these watershed projects. So I am on the Rum River One Watershed One Plan, which just a small part of the way eastern part of Sherburne County has the Rum River coming through it up toward Princeton, down a little bit way on the east side. So that we've already received half of our funding for the next 2 years, and we have approved our master agreement. So really exciting. We're at a great phase. It's been years in the making. I participated in the Association of Minnesota Counties legislative update. So much of what we do at this table is dictated by our state government and our federal government. So we keep a really close eye on what's happening at the state, and lots is happening down there that some might be good for us, some might not be not so good. So we had a ledge update. I went to the Emerald Ash Borer training through our Sherburne County Soil and Water Office. As you've heard, we have emerald ash borer in our county. About a third of our trees in the county are ash. So think about that. Think of canopy. Just look out your door and think of a third of your trees gone. Eventually, we saw pictures of neighborhoods that this was diagnosed, 20, 30 years ago. The neighborhood I live in, 1 out of every 3 trees is an ash tree out of 180 trees. So it's going to be significant if it takes hold, which it does. If you look at the history, it travels about a mile a year unless firewood is transported to your neighborhood. So they're very strict about transporting firewood. Very interesting, talked about treating trees versus taking them down, all of that, learned a lot. And then I participated in a legislative briefing with our federal support. Those 2 projects that they're supporting us on are the 169-4 project and our big Elk Lake Park project. I was also part of the AMC Leadership Summit this last week, and then I also serve on the Association of Minnesota Counties Board of Directors. So I'm the Sherburne County voice at that table, which is good to be at the table, because if you're not there, you don't know what's going on. So as you can see, other than our 2 board meetings a month, we all serve on many, many different entities representing the citizens of Sherburne, and our lives are pretty busy, and like someone said today, I think Commissioner Felber said, every day it's something different. So you go from solid waste to 0 to 5-year-old support. So with that, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is really nice. We are going to recess our regular meeting, and I am going to suggest a 10-minute break. So it's about 5 after 8 right now. Let's come back to the table at 8:15. So we will recess for 10 minutes.